Okay, hello everybody. So the King of Alps is here. Today we finished the first quarterfinal match between Japan and Australia in the Asia Cup. But before I start with my analysis and my review of the last quarterfinal match of the Asia Cup, I want to first do a very short review about yesterday I talked to you guys about the how I was following the New Zealand Basketball League, the NBL. As I told you before, the reason I like the NBL is New Zealand NBL is because it takes me back to a more innocent, more of the 90s, right? So the way they play basketball, lots of scoring, the physicality of the game, right? And the referees basically not giving a damn about anything, right? So like that. So it's basically like a very old school style of basketball playing in the New Zealand league. So in this week was actually week 13, game day 13 or round 13 of the New Zealand Basketball League, and the game was between Hawke's Bay Hawks and the Wellington Saints. Now, before I start, of course, I think I should have to give you some information about these two teams. Hawke's Bay Hawks is an interesting team. Hawke's Bay Hawks, I don't know New Zealand too much. I'm not familiar with it. I'm just going to talk about the way that I saw these teams and how they played during the league, during their league games. Now, Hawke's Bay, I started to follow this league from the beginning, and Hawke's Bay Hawks actually is a very interesting and unusual team. They started off really well. In the first couple of weeks, they had quite a few, wins. But towards the last couple of weeks, they kind of started going through a loss streak, and their opponents, the Wellington Saints, actually, they were the opposite. They started, in a very bad position. They were at the bottom of the table, and from there, in the last couple of weeks, they actually improved really, really, really well, and they're now basically they can make it to the playoffs in the NBL. The playoffs, the first six teams in the top of the chart will go to the playoffs in the New Zealand NBL. So one thing, it was a very high scoring game. The game between Hawke's Bay Hawks and Wellington Saints. The Saints won the game 107 to 80. Like a 27 point margin. Halftime, actually, the interesting part was in the halftime, Saints was winning only by about 4 points. So Hawke's Bay Hawks was basically trailing quite close until the half, but I think it was at about the middle of the third quarter where the game really fell off the radar for the Hawke's Bay Hawks. And I think the biggest reason for this was right at the I think it was the bad decisions of the coach of the Hawke's Bay Hawks, because their American player import, I think in the NBL, the New Zealand NBL, you can have three imports, three American or players from other countries in your roster, and the Hawke's Bay Hawks coach actually took out their American player AG right while he was in the mood, basically, right. So right when he was hot, he took him out, and I think the players who replaced him didn't do as much of an effective job as AG was doing up until that time. And of course, Hawke's Bay Hawks also, they have nice shooters in their team. Ethan Rosbach, Darren Rukava, these are all very good shooters. In fact, Darren Rukava is, I think, currently one of the best one of the best 3-point shooters in the whole New Zealand NBL. And I'm actually curious why he's not being called up for the Tall Blacks team. I think I've been following this league for 13 weeks, and Rukava, even when the team lost, Rukava played consistently well. So he's a one of the best point guards in the league, I think, currently, and he definitely, I think, should have a spot in the Tall Blacks, the New Zealand national team. Of course, like I said, AG's substitution was a big problem in the third quarter, and I think also Hawke's Bay Hawks, their biggest problem, I think, is having lots of unnecessary turnovers. And again, they were making too much. They started to make too many turnovers during this time, and unfortunately, because they couldn't drop the shots and too much turnovers, the Saints basically took saw this opportunity and basically just dominated the game after that time. And another thing I want to actually mention, and this seems to be for me a general problem in the whole New Zealand NBL, is a lack of an ability of basically to shoot free throws. I mean, it's a very funny situation. From the very beginning of the year, many teams actually have many players also had a very big trouble shooting the free throw in the New Zealand NBL. I mean, it's funny. They can shoot contested 3-pointers very well, but when they come to like uncontested 3 points, unfortunately, they in the basically cleanest sense of the word, I should say, they suck in general. I don't have like the full statistics with me, but I don't think there is like a real 90% free throw shooting team at all in the whole NBL this year. Let me just go through some of the players, especially players from the Wellington Saints side that I'm very impressed with in general. Their new American transfer import, Reggie Upshaw, excellent player. He finished with a double-double, 27 points, 10 rebounds. The reason why I like him is he's like an all-around player. He's basically like his official position is like a 4 power forward, but he can play 3, 2, not basically 2, but 3, 4, and 5. So he can go out for the 3. He can get the rebounds. He can do the hustle. So very good player, and I think he has been a very good addition at this time, at this late time for the Saints. Mike Smith was not playing. Mike Smith was another of the imports for the Wellington Saints, and he actually also is a good scorer, very good point guard. Mike Smith is one of those guys that you can't really, guard. He's very fast. He's like Sonic the Hedgehog, or Speedy Gonzalez, basically. He can like go through you in an instant. And unfortunately, the other players actually in the Saints roster took over the absence of Mike Smith and basically to cover the game. Donnie Samuel, again, one of the best, I think, New Zealand players in the league. When you look at when you look at Samuel from the outside, you think this guy, he's a little bit, on the heavier side. He's strong. He has muscles, and you think to yourself, this guy cannot shoot the ball. But then when he gets the ball and the moves that he makes, and the shots that he takes, it's like so agile, so unexpectedly agile from a guy, and so smooth from a guy of his size. So it's a really big surprise. And again, I think Samuel is also another one of those guys that needs to constantly appear in the New Zealand national team, the Tall Blacks. Again, the same is true for Tom Vodanovic, Tommy V. They call him. The reason I love Tommy V, Tommy V is like the basically 3-point shooting version of Dennis Rodman. He can do the dirty things in the field. He can get the rebounds, do the hustle, do the dirty work. But of course, the biggest difference from Dennis Rodman couldn't really nail a 3-point, but Vodanovic. Tim Vodanovic is actually a very good 3-point shooter, even though he's like a 2 meter 3, 2 meter 4 kind of tall guy. And finally, my last points, of course, in the Saints team should go to Xavier Cooks. He was an MVP in the Australian Basketball League, I think, last year, and he's again a very, very good player. He's one of the, he reminds me of Hidot Turkol, Hidayet Turkol from the NBA while he was playing. He's one of those guys that can play all 5 positions. Magic Johnson could do that, Hidot Turkol could do that. I mean, he's got the size, but he's got the dribbling skills. He can shoot the 3-point, he can get the rebounds, dish out assists, score the points. He can do, basically anything you want in the field. That's what makes Xavier Cooks so good. And he was the guy who actually had a triple double in his first game in the New Zealand NBL, and he also finished this game with a double double. I don't really remember his points. I think he had like 16 rebounds and maybe 20 something points, something like that. So Xavier Cooks is like a league of his own. So I think the best thing that to happen to the Wellington Saints is their squad, their players, they actually managed to gel. They managed to come together at just the right time. Because if at the beginning of the league they were kind of having a trouble adjusting to their play. The plays the players themselves were very skillful, but they were basically they couldn't be a team. But now they became a team, and everybody knows their roles in the team. And everybody can back up the other players. So basically, we can. I think at this point in the NBL, New Zealand NBL, we can clearly say that the Saints, the Wellington Saints, actually fully became a very good team at this moment, right? At the last 2-3 weeks, and and as a result, they became very, very dominant. And I think this made the league better in general, because in the first few weeks, it was hard to watch some of the games because the games usually ended up one-sided, and the teams were, they didn't have enough players, or if they had players, they weren't really putting the effort in. But at this part, we're at the critical juncture now in the league. Everything's being decided of the first 6 the spots that will go to the playoffs. So it's becoming a much more intriguing, much more thrilling, much more watchable league in general. So hopefully Hawks by Hawks can get back to the groove they had at the beginning of the year. They had some missing players. I think some of their players went to the national team. So the reason I'm rooting for the Hawks by Hawks is because they also have very skillful players themselves. So if they manage to get together as a team again, find their groove, I think they will also have a very big chance to put themselves in the playoffs. But as I think in the current as the way it currently stands, I think the Wellington Saints have a much bigger chance of making the playoffs because of the way they're playing, right? So thanks for listening, boys and girls, wherever you are, and I will be back with my review of the Asia Cup 2022 quarterfinals, the second quarterfinal, actually 3 and 4 quarterfinal matches, 3 and 4 during the day. I'll try to make the videos as soon as I can. The Japan Australia game finished recently, and the next game between the New Zealand and Korea is going to be played in like about half an hour. So I'll watch that game, and then I'll basically analyze those 2 quarterfinal games after the completion of the New Zealand-Korea match, right? So like that, and see you guys, and have fun, everybody.